Hello and welcome to Awaken Your Human Design. My name is Moni. This is my wonderful co-host Danny, and we have a fun show for you today. We're going to be talking about the planets and human design and what they mean and how you can notice them on your chart and just have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, and we don't talk about it much when we read for people, but I know that when you know the planets, you add a few pieces of its essence into what you're saying, but it'll be nice to name them.
Yeah, and especially for like self-study. Like so many people just want to like look at it themselves and not necessarily like have a reading. So this will be super fun
Right.
for that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So before we dive in, thank you to everyone who is watching live. Thank you for everyone who's commenting and liking and subscribing. It really helps us out, and it's really fun to have you here. So thanks a lot, and let's get into it.
Yeah.
So
Thanks,
first
everybody.
up,
We're growing, Moni. Where are we at? We're over 700 now.
yeah, we're like 712 subscribers upon my last
It's
glance.
so exciting. Every day it grows a couple. Thank you, everyone.
So starting off, we have the sun, which is personality, expression, and life force. This is your core energy. It's a primary yang force and the archetype of the father. And the genetic themes are inherited from the father. This is what you consider yourself and what you do in the world. And it's the theme of our incarnation. The sun also represents 70% of our neutrino field. So that's the energy that's coming into us. So it's a big player. And it's how we express our light in the world. And the solar orbit, as well as the mandala orbit, takes 1 year. And the sun spends 6 days in one gate and 1 day in each line.
Yeah, this is the one we're always going by. The sun and the earth are in opposition. And when we get to the earth, you'll see it's the same thing. Because they look at them as if they're sort of orbiting each other. But regardless, the sun becomes this driving expression that if you ever look at the gate that your sun is in, name it, find the line in it, and you'll find that this is a driving aspect of your expression. This married up with the earth creates this predominant force in your life. If you just saw somebody's sun earth with the line value, you can tell so much about them, just on the personality side, especially.
Yeah. Yeah. The sun is definitely, I mean, it's how you shine into the world. It's like your lead actor, it's the role you're meant to play. It's that, big force.
It's the yang in our life. It's the thing that as it bounces off the earth, that which wherever your sun gate is, it can't just be read alone. It's read in concert with the earth. So they meld together to create, a binary, a beast with two backs in a way, part of your love affair with yourself, just like as it is when you come to know your design information from your personality. But what are some of the other things that are this personality expression, the force? The sun is this thing that you can count on becoming half of that person's incarnation cross. So when you read a cross, you really get a true purpose in life. That's what the cross tells us, and the sun and the earth become half of that. So again, you get to know it more by reading all four of your two suns, two earths. But this one becomes the focal point, like the leverage point at which the yang of you will come out, meaning it pushes out no matter what, just like the yang force does.
Oh, and just imagining like sun rays just like pushing out of the sun. That's
Hmm.
like those rays are just coming out.
Yep, absolutely. I'm glad
Yeah,
the earth is next, right? After this?
yeah, we're just going to go through an order. But before we do that, I do have a little bit of like etymology. And so the sun is named from the Old English sun, Sunne, which is rooted in Proto Germanic and Indo European terms. In mythology, it's associated with solar deities like the Roman Sol or Greek Helios, symbolizing life, vitality, and consciousness. Its universal importance made it a focal point in ancient cultures, reflected in its straightforward name.
Mm, it feels very Zeusy.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a big player in the sky for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So when 70% of the neutrino information that comes from the sun comes pouring through you, this is another reason to see it as the prime expression of this purpose that you will see in yourself that then colors everything about the ways, your way out in the world, your expression, how you'll say, what you'll say, when you'll say it, and what you'll do and how you'll do it. All of these things just come driving through the sun and the earth.
Absolutely. I was checking one thing. So keep talking.
Cool. Oh, no, well, I'm out of stuff to say. That wasn't a question.
That's fair. That's super fair. All right. Well, I'm ready now. So
Okay.
next up, we have the earth, which is grounding and balance. This is the primary yin balance in the archetypal mother. This is where we concretize and how we ground and balance the sun's energy in our body. Right? Am I still here? Can you
Yep.
hear me?
Yep.
Okay,
I can
cool.
hear you.
My
You're cutting
screen.
in and out.
Yeah, okay. My internet's being wonky, so I really hope it works. So the sun needs somewhere to ground itself, right? Like the earth receives the sun, and this is our stability and our conscious balance, accepting the world of form. This is the backbone of our stability. The mandala orbit, as well as the earth, well, the earth doesn't move. The mandala orbit is 1 year, and the earth spends 6 days in one gate and one gate in each day.
Just like the sun. So it's just the reason that it becomes so important and you need them both. I'm a 10 and a 15. And even as we were talking, I'm like, can I tell that the 10 is my driving force, which says the hermit, the successful sidestepping of behavioral requirements through isolation and the several, sidestepping of things. So do I recognize I do that in my life? Yes, I do. But until it's grounded in the extremes of gate 15, I don't fully understand it. It's just that my capacity to be to go into a little shell to do most of my inner work, most of my work is a driving force. And then the 15 gives me, it gives me my love of humanity. And that's where all of my expression goes to. It goes to you, Moni. It strictly is all about humanity. I love humanity. I do everything at humanity. It's humanity, humanity, humanity. It's like Marsha, Marsha, Marsha. Put those two things together, and now you've got your driving force that is grounded, because the yang going out into nothingness, ungrounded, is nothing. It's not conscious until it meets the earth. So you look at
Mm.
both your sun and earth, you put them together, and you see why this concretizes, it brings into form. It's just like God blowing into the dust, however that worked. I forgot what it says he did, and up came man from the dust and the dirt and the mud,
Shaped
whatever that
atom
was.
from the earth. Yeah.
Yes,
Like, yep.
that. And it's perfect. It's a perfect analogy, and it just works that way. We are risen from the earth, and every last piece of consciousness, every vibration on this planet is part of what we're risen up as. We're risen up as aspects of everything here. So it's a lot. So when we read your chart reading, when you're looking into your own chart, you see this on earth and you start really contemplating what it is, you'll notice over and over again that you live that out.
That's really neat.
Which one steers more? Which steers more?
What do you
Like,
mean?
let's think about it for a second. Yeah,
Okay.
steers, just practical steer. Well, let's go with like, crazy steer and practical steer. This earth practically steers this. The grounding says, oh, this way, force. Thank you, yang, and it diverts it in a direction, essentially. It grounds it into something that's going to be its movement. It's not quite the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, the sun is absolutely like the action force. I feel it's like more of that masculine and the electric, right? If we go back to the analogy of a battery, like the battery has the little pointing up and then it has the little indented in thing. And so the pointing up is like the plus, it's the electric, or it's shooting out in that direction. And then the indented side is that magnetic that's receiving it. So it's like, in terms of a directional aspect, it's like, yeah, the sun is shooting the rays at the earth, and then the earth is receiving them. So it's like, okay, in a steering sense, like, yes, it would be the sun, but what really comes to me is a very like yin yang kind of imagery, right? Or like the battery that's completing the circuit, because the sun can shoot its rays out into the cosmos, but unless there's an earth to receive it, the seeds can't grow. Like, you can throw seeds out into outer space and nothing's going to happen, even with all the sun beating down on it. It's just going to fry it. Where it's like, you need the earth to be able to receive the rays of the sun, to receive that solar energy, to be able to foster and create life.
Absolutely. And that's why you need both in order to really read each when it's your chart, That's
Absolutely.
what they put together. This backbone of stability stands true about the sun and the earth, and the earth stands as, I call it the steering wheel, in part because that's what gate 2 is called. The driver, the steering wheel, the homing beacon, the hooker of the line of trajectory. It hooks on to the line of trajectory. It's like, the fastener brings us in a direction. So, and we'll get to those in a minute, but yep,
Hmm. Yeah, I have
yin
a little.
yang sun earth.
That's fine.
Say it again.
I have a little etymology for earth. So derived
Mm,
from Old English herb, EORBE, it looks like, but it kind of looks like one of those old letters that we don't use anymore. And
mhm.
Germanic terms for ground or soil. Unlike other planets, it wasn't named after a deity, reflecting humanity's direct connection to the land rather than a mythological figure.
How sensible. That starts a direction right there. Right? Mythical figures. That's to Earth, that's stupid.
Yeah, it makes sense that stuff out in the cosmos would have these mythological figure names to it. Where it's like
Absolutely.
on Earth, it's like terra firma, it's like where we are. So
And then you get into
that,
Mama's house on Earth, the receptive. And she's like, things work in a certain way so all the babies get fed. Take your deities and put them in the closet while you're doing your chores. Right?
the
That's what I'm saying.
practicality of the Earth,
Yes, totally. And the
like
backbone of it. Without it, it doesn't know nothing lives. So, and consciousness does not get a chance to germinate and grow.
yeah, and I feel like within our charts, like I've been thinking about this in my own chart where I have my design Earth is in 15. And it's like, oh, I am meant to find my grounding in extreme environments and learn how to modify and adapt my behavior to handle those different extreme day 15 environments. So that's how I've been kind of taking it. So it's like the Earth is like where we're supposed to be grounded or how we're supposed to be grounded and how we're supposed to find that like solidity, that backbone, as you say.
No doubt. We seek each other. I just thought of something I noticed. It's only I can only say it from my own experience, my own empirical, is I only know two vessel of loves in the 10th gate, like myself, December. However, for some reason, my life has attracted about 10 of you guys born in June.
I'm a
Yep,
March.
friends.
I'm
Oh,
March. I'm spring.
okay. Well, I've got about 10 Junes. Anything other than the 10, in other words.
That's
It's
interesting. Yeah, I
interesting.
know. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
one other. I have a birthday twinsy who's my spring vessel of love friend. I have, I think, two of the December ones and two September ones and one June, two June. I have two. I have two. I have two of each. That's how wow, I didn't ever think about that. I know two of each
Yep.
vessel.
Wow. Yep. Me, it's all broken down. I know a couple of me and a bunch of the opposition 15s. And I know a couple of the others. I just forget because I wasn't paying attention to those. They weren't my opposition. Typical right angle.
Perfect. All right, ready to mosey?
Hmm. You're right
So
angle too, but you know what? You 3-5 guys, you're closer to the transpersonal. You're closer to seeing more beyond the self-absorbed.
yeah, especially because the two would be especially self-absorbed. Like the third
Hmm.
line, I'm like there's a self-absorbed aspect to it, but I'm bumping into everything all the time and then like tending my wounds from bumping into everything.
Hmm.
Whereas like the two, you're so hermited, so that seems like more self-absorbed because you're just gonna go off on your own and like hide away.
Yeah,
Whereas the third three, we're bumping into it. And the fifth line, we have to be so hyper aware of like who's projecting onto us.
right,
There's
right,
like a
no doubt.
paranoia.
Yeah, so I didn't pay attention. I'm like autumn and spring. Yeah, they're good. But I forget my mom's autumn. My mom's autumn. I know that much. I know one autumn for sure. Now I know one spring. You made me count, Moni. Another direction assist from the projector. Let's carry on.
So next up, we have the moon, which is our driving force. This is the archetype of the eldest daughter, task of the earth, which is the mother. So like the daughter's helping out the mom. The moon is what moves us, and it's a powerful pull of the moon that embodies the message of the sun's energy. And the input from the sun, we receive the input from the sun, but the direction slash force or drive we receive from the moon. driving and moving the form, ensuring evolution, reflected light. Oh, ensuring evolution, reflected light. This is what others see of our inner nature, and it's brought to the surface and placed on display. So the moon's mandala orbit is 28 days. So it's going to go through all 64 gates in 28 days. And it spends 11 hours in one gate and about 2 hours in each line.
It moves quick, and it's one of the ways we always tell people when they get into their experiment and anywhere along the line, whether you're in it or not, witness how as the moon moves, if you watch it go through each gate, and just time it, you will see sometimes you get lit up, and you'll see that. You might not see you'll get lit up and you'll be like, oh, I can't tell, that'll happen. But if you just watch it for at least 2 or 3 months in a row as an experiment, suddenly you'll start to realize, oh my God, those ones I notice. You'll find predominant ones that you notice. I notice gate 23. That's my split. Of course I would notice that. You know what I'm saying? And so there's a couple things we notice. It's interesting.
Yeah, it really is. It's also a really fun way to be able to start playing with noticing any of the gates. Like obviously the ones that light you up and give you some definition may be more obvious that you might notice more easily, but also just if you're curious to start learning about each gate, like that's a really neat way to start playing with it because it's going to go through all of them in a month. Very easy
Over and
way to
over,
kind of practice
over and
over
over.
and over repeatedly.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, like
Yep.
I
Absolutely.
very
Which ones
yeah,
fall
I
with the full moon? That's one to watch. The ones that accentuate at a full moon and at a new moon,
yeah,
right?
those are definitely like noticeable ones. And I always notice like when gate 39 is lit up, I tend to have like a rougher night's sleep. I feel like I'm almost being poked awake. There's a restlessness. I keep waking up. There's an agitation because 39 is provocation. And I do have gate 55. So that
Mm.
notice, when 15, because 29 and 59 are right next to each other. So I'll notice those because then I have sacral light up. Like that'll light me up in my sacral. So I feel this extra buzz. So you can start really noticing specific characteristics of each gate as they pop up around the moon.
So that's noticing that the moon's there. And so what are you noticing? So I'm going to say two things about all of this. So what are you noticing? A, you're noticing that the neutrino stream field is lighting up activations in our body graph. That's genetic. So that's a chemistry. You now got that. And it's changing. Goes through all of them in less than a month. So that's quick. The next thing about the moon is it serves two functions. So we're going to start talking about planets, basically. We'll get to the nodes, which aren't quite planets, but everything else is going to get talked about like planets, what they are. Moon is two things: driving force, focus, driving force, focus. And it takes that Sun Earth as the eldest daughter, too. It's a good thing. Eldest daughter's busy making many rounds is how they're portraying that. And you would think that of mom, but mom is the queen, and the queen isn't always making all the rounds. The eldest daughter makes sure. And drive on one side, design side, focus on the personality side. Your two moons mean so much to you because they take that Sun Earth and they become, if you have a gate 51, they become, you want to see what is new and mutative and creative for you that you can just leap into. If it's in gate 20, everything is right now. It's whatever the meaning of your cross is, it's driven and focused into right now. And you get to put two, usually they're not the same gate. So it gives you such a nice flavor of putting two things together to come up with this drive focus thing that is in us. And so that's what the moon is doing. It is acting a little bit like a magnifying glass, acting a lot like a magnifying glass. Now I think of it.
That makes a lot of sense. And the sun, like if you think of the moon receiving the sun's light and like shining it back at us, it's like we get a little bit of like a double, it's like almost like a
Yep, we
double
get a double
exposure.
hit.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's neat. I've
Yep. And the
never.
second exposure is acting like a rudder, driving and focusing us. It's still the yin yang energy that is the incarnation cross that becomes this purpose that we're tightly bound to. Every one of us is tightly bound to that cross. And this helps focus that in that unique way as yourself. Love your moons. Love your moons because you can see them, by the way. If you just read the moons of someone, you see their moons like, oh, dude, you're driven to this thing. And, look at that. You got this focus that seems to work like X, Y, or Z because you're reading it out. Um, they always identify with that, just like they do the suns and the earths. Oh, so I say the moon is an important thing for you to just notice yourself, because you can see it quickly. After all, it's driving around us like the dutiful eldest daughter, missing nothing, sweeping up the entire surroundings and doing it again.
Yeah, I love this line that the moon embodies the message of the sun's energy and how we receive the input from the sun, but the direction, force, and drive from the moon.
And the sun can't be a thing without the earth. I would submit that the moon is receiving the reflection of the sun as a meaning of both, because it's where the drive does not negate earth. The drive and the focus are the combo of sun earth, magnified, accentuated, and put forth. You can almost feel it like a burning little fire in you. You can't wait.
Well,
Do
it's
you know
always
what you're
exciting to see the moon. You know, even just as like every little kid has a little obsession with the moon. You're like following
totally?
it, and you're
I
like,
used to
well,
think it was following me, and I would
everyone,
run
yeah,
back, and I'd run back again. I'd be like, did it move? I can't prove it moved. Oh, my background. And I sat there for hours just pondering how to measure this thing from my little 5-year-old location.
yeah, there's a fascination. And even, you know, no matter what big city you're in with whatever level of light pollution, you can see the moon. You might not see all the stars, just a couple bright ones, but you'll see the
Usually,
moon.
yep,
Like there's
it's the
still
moon.
something there to like, and even thinking about it, this idea of like this driving force. When the sun goes away, if you don't have electricity, it's real dark. You know, it's like the first time you go camping and when the sun goes and you're like, oh wow, this is really, really dark. When you really, or your power goes out or something and you have nothing. So it makes sense that the moon would be this driving force because it's the only light you're seeing at night.
That makes sense. It carries you through half of the day, essentially.
Yeah, and when it's like a new moon and it's really dark, of like, hey, stay inside. It's extra creepy, spooky outside.
That would make a little more sense to why the moon is part of what enters the dream state too. In the dream rave, the moon plays a part in all of that. Because it's taking over. The eldest daughter holds watch dutifully
When the
for the
mother's
sake
away.
when the mother's away. Wow. Yes. There you go. That's the moon for you guys. Watch your moons. They're so good.
Yeah.
Or call it in and we'll read it out for you. Just ask a question in the question comment thing. You guys should all be making us read for you in the comments, just so you know.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I get totally distracted on every show, and now we're just reading for people.
Every show is 3 hours long. So I have some etymology here for the moon, and it's from the Old English mona, derived from the Proto-Germanic menon, like and other Germanic languages like Old Norse mani, Old High German mano, Proto-Indo-European root, likely from the root of mens, meaning moon or month, reflecting the moon's association with the lunar cycle. This root also appears in Latin, mensis, which is month, or Greek, men, which is month.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I thought it was a fun little thing to add into these little presentations because I'm a nerd and I like doing little research deep dives. And I was like, when else am I going to look at the etymology of all the planets and have them like written down somewhere and recorded?
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Mosey?
Cool. I'm ready to mosey.
Perfect. So next up, we have the South Node, which is your past direction and environment. In the personality, this more frame on the personality side, it frames your personality thinking about like the world. And on the design, it's framing the relationship to the environment and the people around you. So the personality is more mental, the design is more body physical, just to keep it simple. And the nodes represent the stages of our lives played out and how the nodes represent the stage our lives play out upon and how we perceive the world around us. These are the environments experienced through our lives, supporting us in living our own unique destiny. The development stage of experienced life and immaturity. So South Node is the development stage of experiencing life and immaturity until the Uranus opposition around age 40. So the South Node is kind of like Act 1, and the North Node, which we'll get to next. North Node is like Act 2, and it's kind of like your set dressing and characters and like the environment that you find yourself in. And the transition of the nodes symbolizes midlife and entry into adulthood. Like, you know, life begins at 40, like that kind of line. It's like you get to your Saturn return around 30 and you start to like, oh, okay, I'm figuring out who I am. And then you have your 30s to do that. And then 40, it's kind of like, okay, I know who I am. And this is then where I'm going to move into the next world. So South Node is basically you're growing into yourself in your Act 1. And the South Node mandala orbit is 18 and a half years, and it spends 3 to 5 months in each gate.
It's long, and we read the notes out every time they change, guys. We must have at least 6 or 7 under our belt by now. How many have we done? Do you know?
Something like 5 or 6, I would probably
5 or
guess.
6. Okay, yeah.
It's been really fun. I like doing the nodes.
Yep, we're going to get to them all. The South Node is something that you recognize. It becomes your past, but for the first 40 years, and especially in those first 2 or 3 Saturn quarters, first 2 or 3 7-year cycles of your life, it is truly both, and it feels like it's always slipping into the past. So it's here to teach us that there will be a past. It gets us literally capable of recognizing that as we move into Act 2. Basically, it says in Act 2, don't forget Act 1. It totally informs how you're supposed to act, dude. You know, don't pick up another character when we were just doing Shakespeare. You know, please stay with the Shakespeare. That's what people paid for, Shakespeare. Don't give me stand up. You know,
there's a continuity.
The continuity is wicked important. And then there's a link node that literally helps cantilever between the two of them. And that's from the south of the design to the north of the personality, which is also the life path. And so these nodes read a lot of different ways. But the most important thing to recognize, especially in the personality, is just this is part 1. Read it not so much like something exalted, but read it as it's not a planet, but as the position that it is. Just read it as its own individual thing. As you get to your north node, then the two combine and you start reading your nodes more so, and you look back and realize, oh, it fits. I've been living out these nodes. And that's how you start seeing it. This south node becomes predominant trajectory in your youth. The north node becomes predominant trajectory 40 and above, into Act 2. And it never gets rid of the old one is the point. They both work together, but that's the predominant trajectory. So pick a gate. You got a south node and they're always in opposition, right? So if you have a south node in 45 and then a north node in 26, 45 is going to be the time you spend canvassing and setting up what feels like supposed to be you're entitled to. And 26 is going to be the not self version of tricking everyone to get your way, and the true self, loudly and verbousely, 26, or the opposite, loudly, not so loudly, but at least with surety, transmitting a message that's important to all, one or the other. So that's your trajectory. That's how these things move. So you would count the 45 and read it more predominantly for the way of this child.
Yeah, I like to think of the nodes also. It's like the road that you're on in the journey of your life. And you're like going along on the road. And like sometimes, if
That's a road.
But
Thank
also
you,
it's like,
Monique.
yeah, you're welcome. But there's also sometimes like you're driving on like a bigger road and maybe it goes like all across the city and it starts as one name and then it gets to a point and then the road changes names. Right. So it's like in Chicago, there's one that's like LaGrange and you're driving down LaGrange until you hit a point and all of a sudden it's Mannheim and it just has a whole different name. And that's what I kind of see like the south node and the north node as. Like the south node is that road you're on when you're younger. And then you get to that point where you're like, oh, this road has a new name. And it has a different energy. It has a different feel, but it has still a connection to like that first road. It was on the first name of the road, but it's also changed now into something
totally. Your parents lived there.
Yeah.
Essentially, like if your parents stayed at the same house you grew up in type thing, that's where you grew up.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Mine are 34 and 20.
So you're in an environment of busyness.
Well, 34 was the 34 line 5 was the south node, and my whole first part of my life was just rambunctious, annihilative energy. All the time, just rambunctiousness. It was hard. I had to learn to smooth that out.
That makes sense. It's a lot of A lot of power, a lot of energy going on there. Perfect.
Yep.
Ready to mosey?
Mm-hmm.
So now we're at the North Node, which I've already been like touching at in our discussion of the South Node, but the North Node is your future direction and environment. So again, the personality side frames the personality thinking about the world, the more mental kind of aspect of your environment. And on the design side, it frames your relationship to the environment and people in a more physical, bodily kind of way. And so the North Node is what you go into post Uranus opposition. So after age 40, 42-ish. And this is the mature stage of experiencing your life. And the signals a process of letting go what no longer serves and retaining what does. And again, the mandala orbit for the North Node is 18.5 years, and it spends 3 to 5 months in each gate.
The letting go is also the incorporating of what moderately may have served little bits. It's the retaining of what did serve without throwing out the entire baby with the bathwater, and the letting go, jettisoning of the stuff that didn't matter. So as I moved into my 20, it was just more important that whatever power now was in motion was doing its work for me, rather than indiscriminate sacral 34ness, that almost always broke lots of digits. I was always busting up things on my body, little bits, not fully, because I didn't go too far, but enough. It was hard. Yeah.
So yeah, North.
At 20, turned it into a contemplation. More so.
So anything more specifically on the North, or like more broadly, I suppose, on the North Node?
Thank you, Moni. So just North Node wise, recognize this takes you through the rest of your life. As this North Node comes up, it's wicked important now to read the cross of life for you. At this Uranus opposition, this is one of the things we do. We would read your cross of life like sternly and see, like, this is this whole picture. The South Node is still carrying you in that trajectory. The North Node is now taking over and carrying you in that trajectory. And now we have to read through this cognitive development that you can see took place in the first 40 years. That cognitive development very specifically says South Node of personality, diagonally up to North Node of design. You read those two, that's a cognitive development. Now you read the life path, which is design South Node, diagonally up to personality North Node. Those two gates tell a story about your storyline, your life's path in a way. And then you read both sets of nodes, the north to the south, and you see, oh, this has been each one of these speaks to one thing, movement, and the way in which you're physically gonna find yourself in a place, in time, compared to what you can look back on and say, oh my God, when I was 10 years ago, I was in this place. And now 10 years later, I'm in a totally different place in my life. That's what trajectory means. And these nodes are the nodes of the moon, so they're not even a planet space, right? They're just points by which the greater universe focuses through. So we get the neutrino information that the nodes are pouring into our bodies, our genetic framework, are coming from the greater universe, specifically, no matter where it is in the greater universe. It's just it pours in through that. We don't receive it until it comes in through that. And so, whereas the planets are obviously that plus their constellations, more so. I don't know if people know what it is I'm talking about, if you want me to clarify any of that, Moni, but
I feel I just wrote a note down because we'll just do a future episode on that when we'll do like a whole thing on your life path and the diagonals and the ups and downsies and stuff.
It's so sexy. You look at them all and you add them all up and you realize the nodes themselves become a little vortex. Life path, mental no, north to south, north south on one side, north south on another side, across. And they make all these different ways you're supposed to read them. The sun, earths don't do that.
I had no idea about this. I knew that you can look at like the nodes and then like the sun and earth and this and that, but I never knew about this. So I'm actually really excited.
Yeah, when you know all the ways, you start looking at them, then there's that, and then there's this, and then there's that, and it tells a whole story about a bunch of stuff. I'll never, it'd be rare I get that out on a reading, but when people come to know their own design, they're really curious, they want to look at that.
Yeah, no,
They
we're
really
we're
do.
gonna do an episode on it. I wrote a note down. I'll make a presentation. We'll figure it out when we
Oh,
schedule it. But
Tony,
I was like,
thank
oh
you.
yeah, that. Oh, thank you.
It's
I was like,
juicy,
you
isn't it,
mentioned.
huh?
Uh-huh. Yeah, no, you started talking. I was like, write this one down. Don't even let it pretend to slip away. I was like, we're totally doing an episode on that because that's going to be
Oh,
super
yeah,
fun. And I'll
love
have
it.
like little graphics explaining it all because I love making graphics.
So just back to the North Node. As we get to our North Node, and it runs into now both working. They've always both been working. It's just that now the emphasis is here on the North Node. You can start to read the whole rest of your trajectory, and you start to see this notion, this aspect called our movement, and that movement will always equal what you see as where you were, South Node, onto where you are, combination of the two. North Node, predominant, but combination of the two. And you'll see, my God, this did take me in a direction. It makes so much more profound that what hooks us onto this geometry is gate 2 in the G center, the
The
home of
driver.
the magnetic monopole. The receptive, the magnetic monopole as receptive, attracting and receptive. That's beautiful to think about.
Yeah, that just clicked in a whole new way for me of the idea of
Yeah,
like the two is receptive, magnetic is receptive, two is the
that's
most
why I
yin,
say
the
the
most
Earth
feminine,
steers.
pure magnetic, and then the pure magnetic monopole because it's only attracting in one direction, which makes sense in the idea like the battery. It's
Yeah.
only one way where it's receiving in that energy. So that just all like clicked together in a new way in my brain. Thanks, Danny.
Oh, it's gorgeous. Thank you, Mahoney. I love that.
Oh, I
Yeah,
love it
that's why I say Earth does the steering, essentially, predominantly, I
because
would
it's
say,
the
especially
actual steering wheel.
right. It's the only thing that's magnifying it, making it move in a direction, hooked onto a line of geometry, in a physical realm where you can look backwards in time and say, oh, I was there and now I'm here. Look at this, all these aspects that moved me through. The movement is through our life. We're time travelers as we look at these nodes because we're looking at ourselves over time, more importantly than over land distance or even, well, location would fit into all of this. It's just, I find it awesome that it is the receptive that somehow reaches out and hooks on to this. In its receiving of it, it even steers us along with it and it hooks onto it again, like the arm of a streetcar that touches the electric thing above and now makes it move. That's what this is. The nodes, together.
Perfect, Mosey.
Mosey.
So next up we
I
have
feel we miss some practical things. I'm not going back to it, but I'm certain if we go to the textbook, we're going to be like, oh yeah, we should have mentioned A, B, and C. But let's just mosey.
I mean, I took the base of this information here. I took it from the big book.
Oh yeah, good. It's probably covered. I'm thinking about it, and there's nothing to cover. Good enough. Mosey.
I figure we can talk forever about something, but yeah, Mosey. So here we have Mercury, which is communication and thinking. This is the archetype of the eldest son, and this relates to the expansion of human consciousness. Mercury is what you need to communicate, and it's closest to the sun, and it metaphorically has the sun's ear. In the personality, it's the insights you need to communicate, and in your design, it's your unconscious expression. Mercury's solar orbit is 88 days. That's how long it takes to go around the sun. And the mandala orbit takes an estimated about a year because things are going like retrograde from our perspective here on Earth. So the mandala orbit takes about a year and it spends about 3 to 6 days in each gate.
It moves quick. We're gonna have to figure out that thing. I know Mona, you and I were talking about it. I never picked up a calculator and sat there and obsessed for any amount of time. So
I was sitting and looking at the ephemeris and counting days and trying to like count a few. So the closer planets I'm pretty good about. It's the outer planets that got really funny.
I think I need to move on from that or I'll obsess about it.
Yeah,
It's
let it go.
crazy. Look at
Let it
it's like,
go.
let it go, Dan. Let it go. Let it go.
Let it go.
Right now.
Uh-huh.
That's so funny. So
So
this is, what do we know about manifestation? 90% of it is our articulation. Where did consciousness start? As soon as the larynx dropped, the true consciousness experience started because we can now communicate more. We weren't going to get there until these beautiful genetic forms in aura to each other could start talking. We just weren't, consciousness was only ever going to grow like a vast petri dish with a few cells put in it, taking a long time to get out to this homeostasis where, the whole petri dish is vibrant and alive and now can act as a petri dish technically, which is kind of interesting with just cells. With us, it's wicked interesting because we're more than just cells. We're developing this whole thing that makes us. There's only one way we could ever have a conversation about God or moving from 3D to 5D or whatever that is, or ascending, or all of the various things we keep talking about, without the advancement of consciousness. Consciousness knows that there's always more awareness to be had, and there's more understanding of our actual place in it all, and ultimately more understanding of the irrelevancy of, quote, our place, and it just becomes time and space and place. The consciousness field is incredible. Speaking got us there. Mercury is wicked important. It mirrors aspects of the moon because it's got a drive and a focus of what it communicates. And that's how, when you put your two Mercuries together, that's how it works. If you just read the Mercury on your personality side, you'll get the thing you're most familiar with. So it's a good idea to simply do that. Look at your own Mercury. Hi, my Mercury is in 61. My Mercury is in 24. Yeah, you're communicating that you're coming back to something an awful lot. In fact, you're a great communicator and probably a good investigator, because you can't stop coming back to the communicating the what was the thing. So it will, and you have it as a focus. And anyone looking at you be like, oh my God, they're going to come back to this thing. We better just answer it now, because it's a drive of how you'll communicate and a focus. So Mercury speaks, and what was it? Expansion, the eldest son. Yep, this Mercury speaks, and speaking has the aspect of the sentry that stands there with his spear. He speaks then too. So, yep.
Yeah, I have some etymology for Mercury. Mercury is
Go for
named
it.
Mercury is named after the Roman god Mercury, or the Greek version is Hermes, the swift messenger of the gods, due to the planet's fast orbit around the sun. Ancient astronomers observed its quick movement across the sky.
I love that, the fast moving. So communication was always supposed to keep ramping up, and look what we've done over the past 80 or 90,000 years. We've just nothing but ramped up all of the ways in which we get more and more out. It's incredible. So the swift mover. I find it fascinating that the first planet in line, as we get to actual planets, the very first one is the manifestation center of the throat, meaning its correlation, its likeness is of that.
That's cool.
Move on, I
Mosey?
guess. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Venus. Venus represents our values and our sociology, the archetype of the youngest daughter, representing love and beauty. Venus establishes our values, our morals, and our natural laws, and how to deal with others and the world. Our personal Venus is how we establish what's right and wrong, and our moral questions and our issues. And if we're not acting, we'll receive harsh retribution. And Venus's established values become Jupiter's laws. And when you break Jupiter's laws, you receive the retribution from Saturn. So
Yeah.
Venus's
Yep.
solar orbit is 225 days, and the mandala orbit is about 9 to 11 months estimated. It'll vary with each gate, but it's around like 9 months to about a year. And Venus will spend 5 to 7 days in each gate.
So Venus setting up this moral interpretude that each human has, that each man and woman has of their own, very much akin to what gate 49 does in our body graph. This and gate 50, these tribal aspects that have values, and values also inform principles, and these two things come together. You could keynote many more tribal aspects into Venus. So it's the bubbling up of that which is going to be the way, and the way does have a binary of love and light, and then retribution and death, and at times hate, because it's consciousness is doing what all consciousnesses do. You can't know love without the other. You can't know darkness without light. These are things that we know is true. So we come a long way. Once upon a time, Venus was the eye and the eye in the sky. And when it came, it was the, 21 days of ritual sacrifices and beheadings. There are cultures that would do that because it would
All
come up,
sorts of crazy cultures.
yeah, well, I'm just saying that. So Venus, it might not be their fault. Venus may have brought that to the limited way in which their genome and their seven-centered way was designed to express the translation of the neutrino field coming in on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, the energy is coming in and we can interpret it in different ways. So you can interpret it in like high and helpful ways or low and damaging ways. So,
Right. And the old ways. But anyway, so move forward. This love and beauty is this fulfilling of a graceful way to have the principles and the values be something that doesn't need too much judgment, hopefully. And that's what it's hoping for. That's its nine-centered way. So it's this mores. If you just want to take the subtle version of it, you take your Venus, both of them, add them together, or just the personality side, because you'll recognize that deeply. It's important to just see just that. And you look at that gate for yourself in the line, and you'll see this is a deep spot where certain morals in you and things that will anchor and become those things that are convictions as well, brew through the movement of this. And what is Venus establishes the way the youngest daughter. So the youngest daughter is maturing her way through what values will ultimately concretize later in Saturn and Jupiter and Saturn.
I'm totally like thinking of Little Women and like the different sisters because they have like their
I
different
remember that
personalities.
movie. I love that movie,
I love Little
actually.
Women. It's one of my favorites. But like, you can imagine like Meg, the oldest daughter, helping out more so. And then you have Amy, who's like so obsessed with beauty and frills and art and creative, pretty things. So it's like that archetype of the youngest daughter who's love and beauty and things and establishing your values. Because you can maybe get a little too conceited and maybe not establish the correct values because you're so preoccupied in aesthetics and love and beauty, and then establishing incorrect values and not having the right morals and natural laws, and finding that balance between beauty, love, aesthetics, and absolute truths and how you're supposed to treat people and how you interact and deal with the world. There's an interest.
Leading to truths, leading to many,
Yeah.
many truths get witnessed to there. There's almost a prodigal feature in this because it keeps coming back to assess the truths. Venus is always in our life, always circling. So I'm pretty good with Venus.
Same. Oh, I have the etymology. So
Etymology.
yeah, exactly. I almost did too. So etymology for Venus, named after the Roman goddess of love and beauty, and the Greek Aphrodite, as it's the brightest planet visible from the Earth, often seen as a dazzling star at dusk or dawn, symbolizing beauty.
That seems like not enough.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's not you. It's the etymology. So I think that etymology got scrubbed a little bit. It turned into what's that thing everyone always goes to? Wikipedia. I think it got Wikipedia a little bit.
I mean, yeah, it's a simplified thing, but yeah, it's named after the Roman goddess of Venus because of the beauty and the dazzling in the star. It's like, yeah, it's got more depth than that, but as a simple etymology, it's what we got.
Absolutely. No,
So
and that's where we want our nine-centered Venus looking towards anyways, but it just,
yeah, well, and there's also, I think there's also a disrespect towards the feminine and not appreciating the beauty of the feminine, or like, oh, it doesn't matter because it's just beauty and women are just obsessed with it. When it's like, no, beauty has its place because you shall know them by their fruits. You can see, is this the right direction by how beautiful something is? If something is all like
values and morals and yes, are more important than are so important in all of this is what you're saying.
Yeah, there is something there where I think it's easy to like laugh away the frivolous concerns of little girls wanting pretty things, but it's like, no, there's something there of beauty is a good direction to go in.
Absolutely.
Like,
so
beauty would establish our values and morals because if it's pretty, you're going to want that. You want to eat the fresh, beautiful, ripe food, not the dirty, moldy, rotten food. Like that's a
So let's
really
take me through the
important
body
value
graph a
to
little.
establish, or you're going to eat some rotten food and get sick. So beauty is
Yeah,
actually really important.
and don't eat the rotten food. So
Yeah.
let's see if there's a theme that travels through even with the body graph. So um, we left Mercury as the representation of manifestation and the development of consciousness, and now this I would liken into gate two. Lots of gate two action. We keep talking gate two. I keep saying the Earth technically does the driving, but gate two. This reminds me of gate two-ness because towards beauty.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. It's pure feminine, like it's receptive, it's receiving, the youngest daughter, all these archetypes, kind of these symbols.
But what
They move
happens?
over each
Yeah,
other.
what happens first? We smash into like I've got something to say. Yang, yang. It's like a little bird. Yang, yang. Trying to find its mate.
Mhm.
Yang, yang. So,
Well, you're speaking before you're establishing your
yep,
values, right? You're a little
yep,
kid. You're
yep.
interacting and moving in the world in that Mercury kind of way. Whereas, like, yeah, Venus. It's actually really cool to go into that of how beauty relates to our values and our morals and how it works into natural laws. Like I've never thought about it that deep, but there is something really there, and that was really cool.
Yeah, there's going to be a thread that runs through this, Moni. We're going to see it.
Cool. Ready to continue that thread?
Absolutely.
So next up, we have Mars, which is immaturity and energy dynamics. This is the archetype of the youngest son, and it's energetically immature and responsibility free. This is Mars is passive until it's rolling force to be reckoned with. Mars is passive until it becomes a rolling force to be reckoned with, and once ignited, and it's at its momentum capacity, there's mindless outbursts, right? Like I feel like it's like very like teenage boy, just like pure energy shooting out. And this extraordinary energy, when refined, settles into a powerful and mature wisdom and the correct use of energy, right? So it's like a young teenage boy who's growing up and learning how to harness that deep power. So Mars has a significant role in personal transformation. Mars's solar orbit is 687 days, and the mandala orbit is about 18 to 24 months estimated, and Mars spends about 9 to 10 days in each gate.
Yeah, so Mars becomes, the first planet that spends a long time in each gate. You can start to see how it has a much longer influence on things, generally speaking.
Mm-hmm.
It introduces all the planets after it that have long transits before, in each gate. But the immaturity never leaves. Wherever the immaturity is in your body graph, if you go there and you read that gate and that line and you sort of feel it and see that aspect in your life, if you then go to that place and say, I'm going to make this act and be and have a maturity, specifically, you'll fail. Don't do it. Allow it to stay that way. So whatever gate if your Mars is in your gate 7 or gate 31, you're not necessarily administering things as well as you could. You get a certain immaturity in how you administer your life. If you truly try to fix all that, you'll be in your not self mind doing all of that work is the thing. So you have to sort of succumb and do what gate 60 demands and sort of just accept it. But I would liken this energy very much to a young gate 51 with a gate 25 to the channel of initiation. And I would also liken this to, because the thing is, it can be cruel. That immaturity can also be the 14-year-old with a bow and arrow that wants to shoot it straight into the frog and watch it split in half. So it's awful. It's just,
Teenage boys.
because teenage boys. So there is a certain cruelty that can just show up in its discovery of its power. It's
Mm,
that's what it is. It's not necessarily an innate wickedness. It's a cruelness because of its discovery of its power.
mm.
Exactly. So immaturity. Don't count on this to stay mature, but energy. Count on it to always be somewhat energized. And look at your Mars and recognize, oh, this is where sort of kid-like stuff can get rediscovered. Bam, yay. That's fun. And see how it aids and abets, again, the drive of the moon. When you look at your immaturity, you can see, on the design side, it's sort of driven in this way. It's like, oh, look at that. That always comes out. And on the personality side with your Mars, you'll see, oh, I have a focus at the things I notice that this is a spot where every once in a while you'll feel guilty as an adult because too much immaturity. You just recognize there's no place for actual guilt in our lives, but I mean, this is temporarily. Guilt
Well, there's
might.
something you can grow from of like, hey, I was a jerk. Like there's
Yeah, I was
something.
a jerk. Yeah, I went too
Guilt
far.
has
Yeah,
its
yeah.
place.
Sorry
Shame
about
has
that.
its place. It's not supposed to take over our lives, but like if you're a jerk, maybe recognize you're a jerk and
Maybe say it.
hopefully
Yeah. Thank
learn
you,
to stop
Moni.
being a jerk. Yeah, it has its place.
Well, it's a slippery slope there. You know what I mean? We don't
Yeah, there's
allow.
a nuance.
Yep. So I'm glad we're both on the yin and the yang side of that there, Moni, for the viewers. You're welcome, viewers. What was I just saying?
With Mars, don't expect it to be mature in your chart. Whatever that gate is in, it's going to be immature. It's going to be a little wild. Don't expect it to be mature, and like let it have its place and use that energy appropriately. And you grow, and as you grow and mature with it, then it's really powerful force.
That's bam. It's actually a gorgeous thing a lot of the times because it's just so beautiful in its correctness, in its immaturity. So I'm pretty
Absolutely.
good with Mars. It's a
Yeah.
fun energy. You got it. It moves
Yeah.
you.
Even talking about it, I feel like a little bit of like an uptick spark.
Mm.
So for the etymology for Mars, Mars is named after the Roman god of war, and the Greek version is Ares because of its reddish hue, reminiscent of blood, which ancient cultures associated with conflict and aggression.
It's sort of fitting for a dull look at what is Mars and call it war, although it does describe our old way that we're still in that hangover of. Mars is a great place to witness the hangover at work because we as a race, as a species, are still immature. We should read our Marses. Where is Mars every time we do a transit and the node shifting? We should see where the moon and Mars is at that moment.
Interesting,
See
where
if it,
we're fiery and immature.
yep. So we see that drive, focus, and that thing. Anyway,
Yeah. Onward.
Go ahead. Yeah, I'd say onward. But I want to say one thing about the God of War. It's an energy that will help the immaturity of nations as they wage war. There's no question. We see a nation waging war, we get the designs of all of their generals and presidents, whatever, you get the whole top 25 guys. We would read that Mars energy and see what's happening here.
Well, and even that, like, war obviously is brutal and awful and horrible things happen, but it also has its place, right? If somebody or, some country or some people is stepping in on other people and harming other people, like either you get taken over or you fight back. So just like not glorifying in any capacity, especially in like modern technology, it's absolutely can be horrific, obviously, but just an understanding and not being just like war is bad, where it's like, yeah, but it doesn't just exist for no reason. It exists, to define a boundary and a border and to say stop, like you're not going to push in on me. And especially within the
We're not
seventh
supposed to
century
need it. The nine-centered way is not
into
supposed
the
to need it.
yeah, exactly. And so going into the nine-centered aspect of it, of we have too much technology, we can't just keep blowing each other up. So I think we're in this like awkward growing pain
We
of
are. We're in our
growing,
Martian age now.
yeah, and growing
Totally.
beyond that. So
No?
just to expand upon that a bit. So ready to mosey?
Yeah, let's move on.
Perfect. So next up we have Jupiter, which is law and protection. And only the sun has a stronger influence over us. Like number two is Jupiter. So sun is number one, number two is Jupiter. So it's another big power player. And Jupiter is the logos for the universe, logos being the creator of order within the universe. And Jupiter defines our outer development in 11, 12-year cycles and our relationship with the other and the whole. We are imprinted by the focused theme of correction, and our laws are written by Jupiter. And we have the ability to benefit from Jupiter's generosity, which comes from our deep obedience to our own laws, which were first developed in our values of Venus. Oh, and the solar orbit for Jupiter is 12 years, and Jupiter spends about 3 to 4 weeks in each gate.
Deep obedience to your own law. creates a generous Jupiter because Jupiter's laws inside of you are absolutely the product of the contemplations of what were taking place in Venus, both of your Venuses. So when you add up all 64 gates, and they can all be in Venus, and realize all 64 gates are in Venus and all 8 billion people, and they do the same thing for Jupiter, you get a holistic story of how we're really meant to develop the rest of our sort of moral system that has natural law at its core. Essentially, it's natural law. This is the logos for what would be the universal natural law.
Hmm. Oh, excuse me. I just like swallowed some dust. And it's interesting in this idea of like Jupiter as the logos for the universe and that creator of order. I was watching some space documentary some time ago, and that like Jupiter basically like as this giant player basically pushed another planet like out of our solar system and like created the solar system as we know it.
And I can see that. I can see also why it's the next biggest thing. Jupiter, besides the sun, the only thing creating a neutrino stream is Jupiter. It creates about 3 or 4% of the neutrino feed we receive here on Earth. That's significant. So, I mean, that's part of the reason it does that. But yeah, it helps bookend this whole inner part of the solar system, even though Jupiter starts to reach the outer part, obviously. Um, it is longer, obviously, in each gate, 3 to 4 weeks in each gate. There's just so much time. I love it when Jupiter goes into a thing. But back to the law, it is ultimately trying to protect everything that has been matured so far, to allow for the immaturity, to make sure the focus stays with the communication, to make sure the contemplations of the moralities are happening and the drive has a place to go, and that the sun, earth, and the nodes are couched in some protective bookend. Look at Jupiter like a type of a bookend, not an ultimate bookend, because each planet thereafter I'm going to say bookend to for everything that was before it. But I would start saying the bookend word here.
Yeah, because the other planets, they're much more personal. Like Jupiter is still a personal planet, but it's kind of on that like outer edge of it. And even that Jupiter's the largest planet that we have in our solar system, it kind of feels like big arm hugs, like I love you this much. And it's like Jupiter's orbit is kind of containing into some kind of like fenced in system all of those like inner planets and how they affect us on that personal level. It feels like dad energy, like dad containing like kids. Okay, you can play in here and you'll be safe, and dad's going to protect it so the kids can be the kids and do their thing and
Does
grow and
Jupiter
play.
does Jupiter relate to anything? I don't think so, right? It's
I,
not
I
like
didn't find an archetype.
the eldest uncle. No, but
Yeah,
um,
I couldn't find a specific archetype for
good.
Jupiter.
I don't need any more of them. Anyways, it's enough. So, this only the sun has a stronger influence. Jupiter law of protection. Let me see. Was there something else I was gonna say?
Jupiter also has to do with like growth and expansion because it is so big, and that's where you
Thank
like.
you for that. That's one thing, yeah. The growth and expansion. So Jupiter, as you look at your Jupiters, everything that came before it, including the drives and the Earths and the nodes, all of it, everything that came before expands here. Look at the planets of your Jupiters, and they give you part of the themes of what this expansion is, which helps me correlate two spots in the continuing thread of what we're noticing in the body graph. One, Jupiter acts a little bit like the juxtaposition cross as a knuckle between the inner planets and the outer planets. Also, is the same knuckle in between the right angle self absorbed and the left angle looking out over the rest of things. And it sort of is in that position, even though it's also transpersonal at the same time. So it reminds me of the movement of the profiles, and also it reminds me of the movement of not the starting, but the final maturation process in the sacral format that sustains. It sustains a steady maturation of that which is protective. It's constantly maturing the process. So I would liken it to those two things after reading this and thinking about it for a minute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the idea that we develop our values with Venus based on what we see as beautiful, and that is what develops our values and our morals and how we interact with the world. And then Jupiter becomes those laws. And if you're following those laws of Jupiter that were developed within your Venus, then you will benefit from Jupiter's generosity and that growth and that expansive aspect of Jupiter. And if you
Mm.
don't, then Saturn is what we'll get to next, is where you get the retribution and like the teacher punishing you. But
I would add gate 9 as well, not just the 42, but the gate 9. I would say it's serving these two functions because you need both sides. I wouldn't want to do one without the other. The focus concentration of keeping the container, because the very first bunch of planets and Earth and nodes we just read, this is the first bookend for all of that. So it's wicked close to all of that. Everything gets a little bit farther from all of that because it's the next planet out. So I would say it's both. It's focused, it's concentrated, it's maturing the process of keeping the container, establishing the law, and creating protection for all. And it renders its report somewhere because judgment takes place if you don't listen, if you disobey, if you look at your Jupiters and do the opposite of them, if you shun it or whatever.
Mm-hmm. I also have the etymology for Jupiter. Jupiter was named for the Roman king of the gods, and the Greek version is Zeus, as it's the largest planet, befitting the ruler of the heavens in mythology. Its prominence in the night sky reinforces this choice.
There's the Zeus. Love it.
Absolutely. So, ready to mosey?
Ready to go.
So next up we have Saturn. This is about discipline. Saturn is the judge. It's about restraint. It's kind of like the teacher that's coming in to like check in on you at midterms of like, have you been following the syllabus? You have a rubric, you should be following it. Like that's like teacher kind of professor energy coming to like scold you. So Saturn is the ancient yin force, and it represents the judge. And this is where you must deal with the consequences of your actions and the places in your life that you'll pay for incorrectness of not following your own laws and morals developed with Venus and Jupiter. So Saturn is a profound signpost to see where you are progressing in your process. And Saturn is this expectant taskmaster without praise. And if Saturn's leaving you alone, that means you're living correctly. So good on you, keep it up. And otherwise, Saturn punishes you for breaking your own rules and values. And Saturn's solar orbit is about 29.5 years. It got kind of weird when I was trying to figure out how long it's spending in each gate and how long it takes to go around the mandala because it goes retrograde in so many ways. But Saturn is in each gate for a couple years because it'll be in there for like a bunch of months and it'll kind of go back and forth. So that's my best estimation.
It's a nice slow movement. And then us here, in our solar lives, when we get to that age, 29 and a half, 28 and a half in some cases, it depends where the retrograde is or isn't.
Yeah, it's like 28 to 30 is when you start hitting your
Looked
Saturn.
at that way. Yeah, and if you're 27 and we start reading for you and you start seeing it, you're lucky because you're living it already. The oncoming of it. This is where we read the first return for people. Their Saturn return is what our life development is about. The Saturnian life cycle was the seven-centered form. That 30 years or so, that's when life started falling off for the majority of humanity's life existence. It isn't till only the past 300 or 400 years at most. Even 400 years ago, 30 could have been old in many, many villages where many didn't make it to that is the thing. And then as soon as we moved into our nine-centered form, boom, we more than doubled that. Regardless, Saturn becomes this thing that breaks down into 4 cycles. So it's really Jupiter that does that, but this becomes a judge over those cycles that broke down that you ended up getting a reading for. Jupiter's the morals of it. The Saturn return becomes the point in which you're reading. 7 years, 7 years, 7 years, 7 years is basically what you look at your cellular cycle. The first 7 years, you format the child. The next 7 years, you help format their way. The next 7 years, you format both together, and condition it. And these are cycles by which to look at. So I just find it cool that Saturn is the one that breaks down these 7-year cellular cycles, of which we go through 4 of them, just like the 4 base pair of genome that we have.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yep.
Yes, Saturn definitely has that teacher coming in to check on you. Have you been following your syllabus? Have you been following the rules and laws that are meant for you within your own design, within Venus and Jupiter that you develop? And it's just coming in to check, like, have you been following it? And that's like Saturn return. So like Danny was saying, you hit your Saturn return around 28 to 30. You start hitting it probably a little like 27 or so. And that's where anywhere that you're not living in the alignment, you kind of get knocked around, almost like bumper bowling. You get knocked around to like put you into like who you are. So we're going to actually, in 2 weeks, we're going to be doing a Saturn return and Uranus opposition episode. But yeah, Saturn return, basically crazy stuff tends to happen. Like breakups happen, divorces happen, crazy work things happen, health crises happen, crazy things will kind of happen typically around your Saturn return to kind of like shake you out and put you in alignment with who you're supposed to be.
Yep, absolutely. It's a turbulent time.
Yeah.
Marked by the sixth line. That's a sixth line, part of the sixth line process that gave it its meaning.
Mm-hmm. And for Saturn's etymology, Saturn is named after the Roman god of agriculture and time. The Greek equivalent is Kronos, Jupiter's father, possibly because it was the slowest moving planet known to astronomers, suggesting age or deliberation.
Yeah, that's what it would be to them.
Yeah, well, and especially because Uranus wasn't discovered until 1781. So for the vast amount of, like, you can't see Uranus without a telescope. You can only see up to Saturn. So Saturn would be like that last planet that people were able to see, and it had that slow moving orbit. So that idea of like that father kind of figure, that deliberation of the duration of its orbit.
Yeah, it makes it, again, the next bookend in line. But the judge and the discipline and the recognition that when you read your Saturn and you start to realize, oh, that's just working in my life, but it's not something I obsess with. And when you read through it and see, well, what is that? What is that? Do I obsess with that? Do I obsess with that? When you realize you don't really obsess with it, you end up recognizing you ended up living your better life because there wasn't quite so much punishment coming in on you for losing track of what that thing is supposed to just be doing silently. And you can see it. You can see it over and over when you act outside of what that is. Again, try to act opposite, mess around, find out.
Yeah, that's it. FAFO. Saturn, FAFO. That's pretty much the wrap up on Saturn.
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect. Ready to mosey?
Yeah.
So next up, we have Uranus, which is unusualness, chaos, and order, as well as science. Uranus is your expression of your uniqueness and the evolutionary mutative undercurrent that transforms our understanding of the Maya. Uranus extended our human lifespan to 84 years, and it also introduced the tripartite life cycle that you especially see with like the 6 lines, right? The 6 line process. Years of the subjective youth, where you're, third line costume to kind of mess around, find out, see what you bump into. Then the objective middle life from 30 to 50 approximately. And then when you hit your Chiron return, then you go into the transcendent older life where you're being more objective to, incorporate all that you've found out and then be that role model. And then Uranus's solar orbit is 84 years, and you reach your Uranus opposition at around 40 to 42 years, and that's where your nodal focus shifts from the south node to the north node.
Yeah, and all that movement takes place that we were sort of reading before. And that's 84 years, and it's Uranus opposition 42. Yeah, it's hard. And by saying how many days it stays in a gate or a line it's ridiculous because it's going to change so wildly. Just don't even, right?
I tried. I was looking at a 20-year ephemeris, scrolling through and counting and seeing when I could figure it out, and it became really super confusing. So I was just like, the solar orbit is 84 years. Uranus hangs out in its gates for a long time.
Long time. And so was that a month and 2 months or 2.5 months? It's a long enough. That's a long.
Yeah, and then it'll go retrograde for a little bit, a bunch, and through a few gates, and then it goes back forward, and it just takes forever.
Yep, exactly. So, but it's this unusualness. This is our way. Unusualness is just another word for uniqueness. Uranus unlocked the knowing circuitry. It unlocked the 9-centered way such that the knowing circuitry, which is, if anyone knows what I'm referring to, that's the individual circuitry, and I am including centering circuit with that. So the knowing and the centering circuits of individuality is what Uranus technically is speaking for. It's almost like the big brother of all of that, that looks out for its little brother. And on humanity, it's saying, hey, you're being programmed for a little bit of unusualness. Look at where your Uranus is. It doesn't matter if it's in a collective gate or not. Just look where it is, and it's helping to support ultimately where your uniqueness will be. So the trick is, again, this is something you relax with because this is your thing. This is what you got. You know, if it's a warm glove that you wear in winter, it's that warm glove. It's not a warm boot. It's not, it's just relax into whatever it is in your body graph and let it be its unusualness. If you push it, it'll be distorted. If you sort of ignore it a little bit, it'll come out more like yourself. You know, if you experiment with it in your experiment because you're coming to know your own design, you know, it'll be a little bit of both. It might distort a little, but you'll see that and you'll learn so much. Let yourself be unusual here. It's just weird. It's a little bit weird.
Mm-hmm.
Your Uranus is a little bit weird.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's it's really fun also because so Uranus is the first planet that was discovered by a telescope. The other planets we've been talking about, you can see with the naked eye. So Uranus is the first planet that was discovered with a telescope, and this is in 1781, which is also really interesting because 1781 is also the year that like projectors came onto the scene. And
Everything
also,
happened then. Yeah.
yeah, all these things just line up. But then here's what's also interesting is 1781, Uranus is discovered, 1781, projectors pop onto the scene. And also the nature of the projectors, kind of like a telescope looking into other people, which I find that kind of interesting and fun that like projectors popped on when we had the first planet discovered by a
Telescope.
to
Yeah,
how
by a
projectors
projector
vibe by
wannabe.
looking into other people.
Yeah, projector wannabe, if he wasn't already, that like couldn't help but to master that little system, you know, and he just recognized that we were going to need that. Who knows why he was really doing it? His not self mind could have been telling him, I'm doing it so I can name one of the planets and I'll be famous. But at the end of the day, as soon
No,
as
because he
humanity,
originally wanted to name it for King George. He wasn't naming after it himself.
you know what I knew about that? That's right. You're right. You're right. I remember that, and I forgot how it got its name. It got morphed somehow. But anyway, it's just the
King
unusualness.
George, and go ahead. Are you talking?
No, I was waiting on you.
Oh,
You
you keep
froze.
talking.
Yeah,
If I
it's
disappear,
all
you just
good.
keep talking.
Oh, okay. Now I'll try and do that. I thought you might have been in the middle of something, but anyways, it gave us also the nine-centered being. That whole transition. 1781 gave us all new children with brand new energy that were now destined to live twice as long, essentially, and to live much longer than their parents. And boom, that started happening. You go back in time at 1781 and just find whatever record you can for all the births, you know, it's out there. You'll see that, oh, these kids lived longer. You'll just find the trend starting there. And they also started getting taller. You'll find that trend 20 years later. You'll suddenly see measurements. Oh, everyone's a little bit taller. You'll find measurements of, oh, everyone's temperature is a little bit warmer. We changed to accommodate this nine-centered uh, work towards advancing consciousness and our awareness and our intelligence, essentially. So Uranus is the unusualness that helps unlock all of that. Let it be unusual. A little bit of chaos. Love science. Absolutely. Uranus might be akin more to the 52 in the gate 53, whereas just before were the top ones in the sacral.
So for the etymology of Uranus, Uranus is named after the Greek god Ouranos, Ouranos, the personification of the sky and father of the Titans. Discovered in 1781 by William Herschel, it was named to continue the mythological theme, though Herschel initially proposed naming after King George III.
Thank God he didn't name it after King George III. Thank oh my God.
Yeah, it'd be very silly. And that is like a replica of the telescope that he used. So I added that little picture down there.
Look at that. Yep. Long reflector tube. That's just amazing. We were getting so smart, so clever, so fast. So Uranus was the unusualness. Herschel was bound to be unusual enough to find it. We
Absolutely.
read about his life, we're going to find out where his unusualness was. All I know is Uranus started the birth of the human design body graph, which couldn't quite be read prior to that.
That's cool. And the development of projectors to really nerd out and master it.
And all kinds of stuff and direct us. Remember, guys, your projector friends and the ones you don't know, especially, they're directing you left and right, whether you know it or not. It's accidental. It's accidental on purpose, like accidental to us, but God said, no, that's on purpose. I made it that way.
Perfect. Ready to mosey?
Mm-hmm.
So next up, we have Neptune, which is illusion, art, and spirituality. Neptune is a great teacher demanding total acceptance. This is veiled potential that's not possible to see through because it can disturb the not self. Seeing through the veil, we lose the ability to see limitations, which can lead to misuse. When you surrender to Neptune and leave it alone, you can allow its potential magic to emerge and learn a great deal about the nature of surrender. And Neptune's solar orbit takes 165 years to go all the way around the sun.
Long orbit, very long. Most people, almost nobody will outlive Neptune one orbit, is the thing.
I mean, yeah, I think it's like 120 is like the oldest people.
Yep, yep, absolutely. Veiled is the important word here. What's behind Neptune's veil is fuzzy. It's fuzzy. And that's the simplest way to put it. If you just allow it to stay sort of keynoted that way, that it's supposed to be fuzzy. It's like, picture a really cool waterfall that's going over the mouth of a cool cave. You've been in the cave before. It's probably not the best that you're in there. Every time you go in there, you end up, you got to come back out. But
It's a
it's
little
such
uneasy.
it's just yeah, it's like, but you do go in there, you can see some things, but it's veiled. It's got the water falling over it, but you can still see the outline of it. No matter how you squint, even if the wind blows and blows it away a little bit or the water slows down, it's misty, you just never can quite see through it, but you do see that it's there. Your best bet is to notice that it's there and then sort of forget about it, just like we do a little bit with Saturn. Actually, all these outer gates allow, because the unusualness, don't look at it too hard. You'll start to mess up your own, so you'll go into your not self. If you try to be Neptune, because you're trying, right? Because you think you're trying, then that's when you'll miss it. So all of these carry that characteristic. But it's veiled. Get used to the veil. There is an illusion back there. Art falls out of here. Our spirituality, this is the bookend that goes back through all of it and imbues it with that spirituality. It's just constant bookends, little L's at the end of the computer code. L keeps going on and on. This is that.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, it's more fun to watch a magician if you're not trying to figure out what he's doing.
It so much is. And I hate it because half the time, more than half the time, I'm like, I'm not going to figure it out. And so I'm going to lose both. A, I'm not
Yeah, and
going to
that's why it's
figure it
like,
out. And
just
B,
enjoy the show, enjoy the ride,
Mhm.
enjoy the show. Because it's like, if you start trying to look under the veil and try to see things that you're not supposed to see, it can be exciting at first, but it gets really weird really fast. And that sense of like, if we start peering through the veil, we can lose the ability to see the limitations which are there for a reason, and it could lead to misuse. And when people go too far into that kind of stuff, it gets weird. It gets an odd kind of energy to it, and it does lead to misuse. So as enticing it as it is to try to see the things we're not supposed to see, it's like, some things are
And you
better
don't have to
left
worry all
behind the
that much.
veil.
I tried looking into my I tried in the beginning looking into my Neptune. Each time I looked into it, it felt veiled to me. Maybe my second line got sick and bigoted it and just said, I don't care anymore, and just stopped trying to look. But so it's not that it's the easiest thing. We should do that one day, Moni. You'll look at mine. We'll look at each other's as
Look at each
Neptunes.
other's so we're not
Yeah,
looking at our own. Oh my gosh. It's like
I'll look
cheating
at
in
yours if you
solitaire.
look at mine.
Oh my,
Right? Yeah. The Neptunes and see where, like, 'cause like we do, we talk things out and learn all that juicy stuff that we learn. Yep.
that's cool. I like that. All right. So for the etymology for the god of the sea, and the Greek version is Poseidon. after its discovery in 1846. Its bluish color, observed through telescopes, evoked the ocean, making the name fitting.
Mm, totally. And the ocean is veiled. Someone please tell me we know more about our skies than we do about our oceans. I mean, we know plenty about our
Yeah.
oceans now,
No, that's
but
no,
they
that's the
are
thing, is
veiled.
like 95% of the ocean is like unexplored. Like we don't know anything about what's going in the depths of the ocean and like the Marianas Trench and craziness like
Yep,
that.
yep,
There's so
yep,
much down there. We have no
absolutely.
idea.
We've only gotten glimpses. That's exactly it. And then what happens? The little can gets crushed. So,
Oh my God,
um,
that was so bad.
yep, yep. But that's what I mean. Whatever. That's what ends up happening is we'll get little glimpses. Neptune, you'll get glimpses. That's it. And you let it go like the deja vu. It was always only ever supposed to be. So
That's a really good analogy. Is like let it just like flutter through and don't look at it too much.
deja vu is a big thing. We have it. I remember
Hmm.
even some of my days. It's like, whoa, deja vu. So we are living in this extra thing. There's extra sensory, extra. And Neptune is partly a portal for all of that. As long as you don't try to uncover it too much, it brings ugly.
Absolutely. All right, ready, Mosey?
Yep. Last and final.
Well, this one, and then there's like Chiron as an honorable mention after Pluto. So Pluto, this is truth, transformation, and psychology, the archetype of the grandma. Pluto brings forces of our subconscious to the surface, representing rebirth, and it can be seen as a truth teller, bringing hidden truths to the surface, looking you directly and squarely in the eye. Truth brings transformation. Pluto represents your truth, and the deepest lessons are finding the light within the darkness, and the mystery of Pluto takes a lifetime to explore. Pluto's orbit is 248 years, so it's a big one.
Yep. Yep. Hence our country had its Pluto return not long ago, a couple of years
The
back.
past couple of years, yeah.
Yep, exactly. So grandma truth. And it does have an archetype. That's funny. So the final bookend is grandma. It's not grandpa, it's grandma. I like that. And it's fitting. So this whole it's a super and a subconscious. The psychology does come out. The psychology does tell you the truth. The transformation does start a rebirth from the previous rebirth that had gone through its transformation. It's like a continuation in the continuum of truth. It's your truth. Wherever your Pluto is in your body graph, you go ahead and look at them together, put their lines together, or just look at your personality first, and you'll realize this is conditioning as a bookend the truth of everything that they've read before up till now as it relates to all the other planets in me. So each unique being, through its uniqueness, through the veil, with its immaturity, and its driving forces in a direction, and its morals, and its laws, and all the words it's going to say, and every law it will ever make, judged not so much because the truth, the first bookend, because is put in one way, because the last one is telling it, here's the truth. So they confirm each other. That which is Jupiter and Saturn get confirmed in Pluto. Pluto becomes your truth. Oh, this is important to you. This is your overall truth in your life is in that gate for each being. You can read it. It's incredible. It's like, what? I thought this was just genetic traits, like, how I'll sort of act a little. Yeah, this informs how you'll act. The genome is so brilliant. It's vibrating with such capacity to, as yin force of genome, receive. If you think about it, the genome essentially is a yin process. It's receiving the neutrino ocean and then allowing it to format inside of our body representing Earth, essentially, and then become ways in which our consciousness lives out. Pluto becomes the grandma truth that sort of can bookend and tie it up all in a bow and tell the rest of that story truthfully. It's important. I love
Mhm.
the sign, the P with the L under it.
Yeah, it's a really simple one to know which symbol it means.
Hmm.
Yeah, I like this. It's like this force that brings the subconscious to the surface, the truth teller. It almost has like this fertilizing aspect, it's like this life and death and rebirth kind of stuff, and where stuff kind of gotta, turn to mush
Yeah.
before it can be reborn, regrown. You know, it's something dying off and then becoming fertilizer for the soil for something new to grow, is that like rebirth aspect.
It's wicked important that it be that way.
Yeah. And then,
Oops, sorry for that, something in the background.
so for, oh God.
What?
Oh, you were going to say something, or I was going to say something.
No, I was going to move on from Pluto because Grandma Truth is where I think I want to leave it. It's where it feels natural to be left.
Cool.
You know, because it's a simple one. Let your simple version of that be what comes out.
Absolutely. And just for the etymology of Pluto, Pluto is named after the Roman god of the underworld, and then the Greek equivalent is Hades. And it was discovered in 1930. The name was proposed by an 11-year-old girl, Venetia Burney, and chosen because Pluto's distant dark orbit evoked the hidden mysterious realm of the underworld. In human design, Pluto is linked to transformation and deep subconscious drives, often influencing generational themes.
Wicked influencing generational themes. Yep, absolutely. We can always look at that for that aspect as well. But no, I'm pretty good with Pluto.
Same. And finally, we have the other celestial bodies like asteroids and stuff you can look up. And so the important thing to remember when you're looking up other asteroids that within human design, they do not create definition within your body graph. So no other objects in the heavens activate gates besides the.
Yep, besides the ones that are literally that we've
the
named
big
out here.
players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's not to say
the Chiron does do a thing. Chiron
I know, I'm
does
getting to it, Daddy.
Sorry.
I know. Let me read the thing. So, no other objects in the heavens activate gates. And it's not to say such objects have no effect. They all filter the neutrino stream. So, anything out there is filtering the neutrino stream. No gate activation. So, they can provide insight. And the same is true for the ascendant. The same is true for the ascendant, the midheaven, Arabian points, etc. And so for an honorable mention, we have Chiron, whose solar orbit is about. Chiron was discovered in the late 19th.
And it did. It became part of what Ra ends up having to read into basically the chart. And what we learned that we can start reading into the chart. So what does Chiron do as, quote, the wounded healer? And it's not just the wounded healer. The wounding is being alive. And the healing is us being healed because we're alive. We heal ourselves, and our consciousness helps heal that on top of it. Excuse me, I have to do something here. So what ends up happening is Chiron, it doesn't add as much as it literally, well, it doesn't quite add definition, but it adds the essence of definition. When you get your Chiron chart pulled, you realize, oh my God, all my centers are filled in mostly. You pick up new definition, but really what it is you pick up the essence, the essential transcendence of the definition you already had moving into other gates that it was already going to move into. It shows a movement as to where this consciousness of yours was supposed to go. And it does act like new definition that sort of can show up. Picture what are the snails or something that can, they regrow their limbs when you chop it off, a worm, whatever. But yeah, it's worms, but they regrow it perfectly. I'm talking about something that takes a while to limp along. Saturn sort of grows into you like that, limps along, and it's never quite the same thing as what was once, as what your natal chart is ever. But it does add the essence of definition without adding the true life force of that definition, like your natal chart. So it informs the rest of the body graph. You can see it's a trajectory of what's happening in your life. And because of the essence that it adds, it's almost as if it's adding the gates themselves into your life. So you can quasi read it into your chart. My Saturn, my Chiron return chart is like, I got a lot. I'm still open emotionally. Everything else is defined, and I still have a split. But other than that, a lot of definition showed up. and it was cool. And you can see how it acts itself out. I have gate 51 in my Chiron return. You know, do I see that I move in an essence willfully in that way sometimes? Yeah, I do.
And for our etymology, Chiron is named after the centaur Chiron in Greek mythology, known as a wise healer, teacher, and astrologer. Discovered in 1977, this comet/asteroid, classified as a centaur, that's like an astronomical term, is like a centaur, was named to reflect its unique orbit between Saturn and Uranus, symbolizing a bridge between the material and spiritual. Chiron, wounded but healing others, represents the wounded healer archetype.
Yeah, I love that. And I just like the fact that it's teaching, it's insightful, it's bringing knowledge, you know what I mean? It's spreading wisdom because it's at this point it's the last thing we read into our chart. I guess we can read other things, but if you go through a whole Uranus opposition again because you live that long, you know, you could read it
Mhm.
in and stuff. But this is functionally the last thing we read in the chronology of reading someone's chart. It's pretty
Yeah, of the
amazing.
main chart before you're really getting lost in kind of some outer
Right.
stuff, which is like a fun deep dive, but this kind of can round it out in a good way.
Yep. Chiron shows up, like you said, around 50 years of age, and it does represent the ending part of that tripartite life cycle where we pick up speed and we move into our fullest creative swing and our most, you know, devastatingly awesome potential shows up here
Hmm.
to crush it. If you want
Yeah.
to crush it, that's what's supposed to happen now, if it didn't already.
Yeah, that's when like the sixth line comes off the roof and comes back into the world for like that like
Mm,
big
yep,
hurrah.
yep.
Perfect.
And it enters society and it becomes part of the thing after having paid so much attention to it and, you know, no more aloof. The aloof is supposed to die down at
And
age
come back
50.
into the world. Yeah.
Yep. So
Perfect.
I feel pretty
Perfect.
good. I love how the planets, each one of them, the whole slew of planets create a layer of things that are needed for the human life and the life on this planet to grow its consciousness. It just is. The whole hue of everything from the sun earth through the moon's focus and drive all the way through to Pluto's truth. And it's the unusualness and the immaturity and the morals and all the stuff, the communication, how we build laws, how we move, all of these things, including the veil, are things we need to have lined up so that when you read the chart, you can recognize, oh, all of this aspect is sort of like a spine that also the chart sits on. It sits on this as sort of a spine of its own, and astrology used it as a spine, you know, a lot. They had to. So I would love to hear astrologers go over certain aspects of the planets as well, you know, add their flavors to it.
Hmm. Yeah, and then we still have our fun little story that I created for us about the planets. You ready for
Fire.
that?
Yep.
So here we have uh, all the world is a stage, right? So this is based on, this is actually the opening line from William Shakespeare's play As You Like It. And it's all the world is a stage and all the men and women merely players. They all have their exits and entrances. One man in his time plays many parts. So I wanted to explore this idea with the planets and the roles that they play and imagining your life as a stage production, and each planet has a different role that it's going to play out. So you ready to dive into this, Danny?
Let's hit it.
So life is a stage. We all have our role to play. So there's all different characters and we all have the role that we're supposed to be. The sun is the lead actor. This is you on the stage embodying your authentic self and core essence. This is the role you were born to play.
That's the sun for you. Yep. With the earth, it ends up being the whole role you're born to play.
Yeah, so the earth is the stage. This is the solid ground supporting the entire production, where everything manifests and plays out in the physical world.
And is about to give way to a ton of communication. I like that. It's a stage. We all get to stand on it. And it
Mhm.
supports us.
Yeah, it's what's grounding us, right? The sun is that role you're supposed to play, and then the earth is what's grounding us, and it's actually like the physical stage that's holding the whole thing in place. Then we have the moon. This is the guide shaping how the scenes unfold, influencing your instinctive responses and setting the emotional tone for your life's production.
focus. The moon brings that director's focus, cut and action.
right? Our lunar nodes, this is the set designer and casting director, the backdrop against which your story unfolds, and the types of characters you'll encounter along your evolutionary path.
That evolutionary path is a trajectory, and these nodes are very much that. They're the director, the casting, and they make sure that the players that are supposed to be in the cast show up. And if you're living out your design, they show up on time.
Yeah,
Right? The casting director and the set designers, they need that. They need their peeps to show up on time.
absolutely.
Part
It's
of it
like,
is keeping time. Yep.
yeah, the set dressing, the characters you meet, it's everything that you find yourself on your trajectory of your life. Then we have Mercury, which is the script writer and voice coach, crafting your message, facilitating how you express ideas, ensuring information flows coherently between all parts of the production.
And doing so with an alive and vibrant sense that part of it is a drive and part of it is a focus. And it comes together to be the scriptwriter that gets so much applause at the end. At least the play does.
Then Venus is the costume designer and art director, creating what is beautiful and appealing, shaping your aesthetic sensibilities, what you're naturally drawn toward in relationships and experiences.
Venus and Mars will get the applause at the end. And Venus, for her absolute role, and not just the costumes and the art direction, but the art direction, the direction of that art. You know what I mean? And the direction of the unfolding and the genesis, and not just the genesis, but the evolution and the growth and the expansion of that art as it does expand out into Jupiter and technically Saturn.
Then we have Mars, which is the stunt coordinator, how you initiate action, overcome obstacles, and express your drive and assertiveness. This is how you confront challenges, channel your physical energy, and pursue your desires with determination and courage.
Yeah, courage and folly. Get used to it. Sometimes it's one, sometimes it's the other. You can only find out through one by also living the other. So, stunt coordinator and, you know, more stunt coordinating. Yeah, I'll go with that. Right.
I'm glad you approve.
They
Then
crushed it.
Jupiter. Jupiter is the producer, the big picture visionary, providing resources and potential, ensuring your and largest audience.
Yeah, this producer that yells out the overall message. And everything in the set has to be in certain conformance with, but the nitty-gritty of the directing's already been taking place. So Jupiter helps basically, like it does in our body graph, set up the law.
Absolutely. Maintaining necessary boundaries, enforcing timing and structure, ensuring you show up to do the work and learn the lessons required for mastery. So if you're following your values of and your laws of Jupiter, Saturn is going to be like professor on the one side. And if you're not following your values and laws, you get the mean guy yelling at you on the other side.
Which you can always know your values and your laws by simply dialing into your strategy and authority, because that will tell you what they are. Your strategy and authority won't let you navigate towards what they are not. That's just something to recognize. And stage manager is good. Saturn, that ultimate sort of judge of things, because stage manager will fire your butt. You're fired. No job for you.
Yeah,
No credits for you neither. Right.
Well, there you go.
So
yeah, you don't pass the class.
Yeah.
Perfect. Then Uranus is the special effects coordinator, introducing unexpected plot twists, revolutionary breakthroughs, and images that break conventional patterns.
Yeah, and the cool thing about it is the special effects peeps, someone may have given them orders of what they want and placed their wish list of how they'd like this to go, but that's not what Uranus delivers. It might get something that was close to that, maybe, or not. It's not up to us. The unusualness of Uranus is in the special effects that then come back out, and it's sort of the movie just has to deal with what's there. So this Uranus is a spot where even the stage manager, that guy that can hire and fire, has a hard time firing the special effects guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then we have Neptune, which is the lighting and sound designer, creating atmospheric elements, blurring boundaries between worlds, manifesting mystical ambience and dreamlike qualities, transcending ordinary reality. So you have like the magician with the light, the spotlight on him, but then you have the other guy on the side with the little veil, and it's like, don't look behind the veil, don't look behind the, don't never peer behind the curtain. Like Oz.
Right, and you're not allowed to look what's behind the curtain. Plus, I love these colors of this thing for Neptune. The whole thing sort of looks right. That veil is always what's there before they show you the trick behind the veil, and you never get to know what the trick really is, and then the veil goes back over it. So this is just a beautiful spot where the lighting and sound they can basically make it go dark. Don't go behind Neptune too much; it will make things go dark.
And there's always going to be some sleight of hand that you miss.
Yep, and allow it to be missed. It's not yours to see. Just recognize it's doing what it's supposed to do.
Absolutely.
Trust, my child, trust. Neptune is very much just trust.
Yeah, the surrender to Neptune. Then Pluto is the director of rewrites and endings. Force determining when parts of your story must be completely reimagined, facilitating profound death and rebirth processes for a more powerful life narrative.
Sounds like Pluto also did the polling before they launched the release. It was like, no one bought any tickets if we do it that way. It's time for a rewrite. You got to add in X, Y, and Z. Yep.
They did some market research.
Truth is truth. Truth is truth is a thing. And Pluto, because of its extra long double lifetime length, it basically picture your life as a full-on more than double lifetime of what's even normal on this planet. 265 years, that's like a triple life almost. That's a lot.
The scope far beyond ours.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you get a triple life going on in your own life, the wisdom and the truth will become so absolute by comparison to everyone else. It'd just be incredible. So Pluto is that representation of that. And it will rewrite and make sure it gets the right ending because it's birth and rebirth. So it's decay, ending, death, rebirth, or transformation, really, and then rebirth, however you want to look at it.
Absolutely. And then the not self is the understudy. The not self is the stand-in who takes over when you're not embodying your authentic self, performing a desperate imitation of your role, going through the motions without your general voice or going through the motions without your genuine voice or authority, creating the appearance of being you while disconnected from your design's true purpose and resonance.
Yeah, the not self understudy needs to be relieved of its thing because sooner or later the understudy quits like a not self or ascends into its profession, which is the true self. So the profession that we're trying to get past the understudy level of, and we don't want taking over anymore, is the path of understanding our strategy and authority, our design, who we are, and most especially who we are not. I get as much out of telling a person who they are not rather than who they are. You know how many times when I read for people, I was like, good, so now you get to know. You don't need to do that. This isn't your thing. And just hearing me say that is relieving sounding to you if it were only true. Now you just got to start seeing it so you believe it. Every reading has things like that in it. And the other person's like, oh my God, oh shit, he showed me. Darn it. I just did the thing. Oops, I added my one.
Yeah, and
So,
like the not self has its place as that signpost. Is like it's easier to see your not self, especially if that's what you're used to living. So when somebody can point it out, you're like, oh my God, thing that I
that
do
I
it, and
don't
now I
like
can let
already.
that go. Yeah,
Yeah. Yep.
exactly. And finally, we have the true self. When all these roles collaborate seamlessly, you're not just playing a part. You're embodying your authentic self in full expression. The production flows effortless. The production flows effortlessly because every aspect of who you are has a clear role and purpose.
Yeah, the true self through the strategy and authority of yourself and your type, the witnessing within and the witnessing without, these roles come together and the planets help inform it so much, and it all becomes the thing that you know you're supposed to be. The thing is, every time I point out someone's true self in a reading as I'm going through their analysis, they always agree. And the degree to which sometimes they agree, but there's shame in their voice, and they say it, and they're like, I'm having a hard, because I'll ask them, it sounds like you're having a hard time, with this moment, yeah, out will come all this stuff. It's because of the embarrassment of their not self having always kept it away, and their fear that, will I even be able to be me? Because you can't quite tell so much. So true self is that thing that they already knew. Everyone already knew. They already knew it. We just unpack it. It's very powerful. It's waiting. Anyone wants that to come out, you just got to want it and start being willing to witness, and then out she comes. Very receptive, by the way, as your true self. Very receptive to being itself. Lots of yin force there.
Absolutely. So that was my little all the world is a stage planetary story to kind of just personalize it a little bit and make it a little bit more fun. And I enjoy making these presentations. So I did it
Oh,
also
good.
for myself.
Yeah, it was. It took us through the whole thing sort of again, but it added a different little flavor to it. I
Yeah, and
just
made
think
it a
people
little
should be interested in their planets, just generally. Know your planets at least a little bit. Be interested in at least one of them. Look at it and be like, is that thing me? And start there.
yeah, they kind of like come and go in my awareness. Like it's easy to like, okay, I'm a projector and wait to be recognized and respond. And my strategy and authority, those are kind of like the main, like the tip of the pyramid, right? It's like that main first thing. And
Mm.
then you kind of glance over of like, oh, Jupiter, that one's interesting. And you look at your Jupiter and play around with it for a bit. And then you forget for a bit. And then you're like, Venus or Mars. So you kind of float in and out of the planets. But it's always interesting when I kind of float back into them and kind of give it that layer. Like if you remember those old like 80s toys, the viewfinder,
Hmm.
the planets and the awareness of like their role in your stage play of life, you can kind of give it this filter of understanding of like, oh, Mercury, this is how I communicate in the world. And it doesn't have to be really complex. You can make it as deep and complex as you want, but it could just be like, oh, this is how I'm kind of programmed to communicate and express myself in the world.
Yep. Yep. Within the greater framework and all of that, it just always keeps your type. This was just really handy to get through all of the planets and speak as much stuff as we could about them, give the flavors of them, and recognize these flavors are always touching you. Even though we have strict mechanics, more strict mechanics, sort of like just in the body graph itself, blah, 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 gate name, gate line, all that. This has its own layer, and it's meant to tell the story that it's supposed to tell, and it is from what human design really launched into from, because really astrology was the last science before we finally could put it all together. So
Yeah, just I don't know, more neat layers and information. It's like, onions and parfaits, there's always more layers. So it was fun to
Mhm.
deep dive into this with you,
Indeed.
Danny. Yeah,
Yeah.
so next week we will be going over the Saturn return and then the Uranus opposition and kind of deep diving into those. And I don't know, maybe if we have enough time, we'll see if we throw the Chiron return in there. Maybe that'll be another episode. We'll see. So yeah. And then
I
we
said
got
about everything I feel like saying about Chiron just when we were talking about it tonight. Chiron can take people a little off track too, as well as a thing. So maybe
yeah,
we
don't
can have it on.
Yeah, we'll see how we do. We got some compliments. Chewy said, very fun subjects. Thank you both for bringing this to us and for your time and energy. You're welcome. And
No
thank you for the
way.
compliment.
Thanks so much, man. Much love.
Yeah, we also got a compliment from Vanessa. I love this. So helpful. What a clever way to remember the planets and their roles. Thank you. And we're glad you enjoyed it. And I'm glad you're here.
Oh
So I
my
have
God.
someone to
Thank you,
share it too.
Vanessa. Yep.
I
It's
love
growing. I love you. Love us back. It's so good. We got love in a circle.
we got two vessels of love, so I think it's bound to happen. So it's
Yeah,
fun. I love like
absolutely.
I get to talk about this with you and like deep dive and nerd out, and then it's fun having viewers to like watch and comment because it's like, oh, I have someone to show it to. And Jonathan says hi. It's fun
Yo,
seeing
yo,
you
yo,
again.
Jonathan. Love you,
Yeah.
dude, man. Thanks.
Yeah, and then Vanessa, yes, this is wonderful. Been binging your channel over the past few days. Yeah, thank you. That
That's the
makes me
crap.
so
Yeah, we're
happy.
killing it. We're starting. We really want to crush it as it relates to creating readers. At a certain level and a pretty good level too. So look us up and get our mentoring too. If you really want to learn this stuff, I'll teach you how to keynote like the wind. It's the greatest thing ever, by
Yeah,
the
we're
way.
setting all that good stuff up. So it makes me really happy that people are like enjoying us and learning from our little deep dive, like very unscripted conversations. Like I make the presentations and then the rest is totally just what it comes out of us. So thanks for being here for it.
It doesn't need to be, Moni, which is a beautiful thing because the truth before the script is the same truth after the script.
Hmm.
Is the thing. It's such a beautiful. It's so nice not having it have to be scripted.
Yeah, I would get neurotic and super insane if I tried to script stuff and like record it properly. It's like, no, let's just like give out some like core human design information and then just talk about what we see and what we've been playing with in our years of, exploring human design.
Save the scripting for a TV show. I'm down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So thank you, Danny. Thank you to everyone who is watching live and on the replay. Thank you for liking and subscribing. That really, really does help us, and it just makes us really happy to see them like. So thanks for.
Yeah, totally. So much love, everybody. I'm smiling ear to ear at this point.
I know, me too.
Love
It makes
you.
it so fun. Thank you
Yeah.
for commenting and asking questions and doing all the cool stuff. We got so many more fun shows for you, and we love having you here with us. So thanks for being part of
Make
it.
some
And
suggestions too. Make some suggestions on what you want us to talk about if you have any.
yeah, absolutely. And until then, we will catch you next week for the Chiron, or no, for the Saturn return, the Uranus opposition, possibly Chiron. We'll see, but we'll catch you next time and have a good week.
Much love, everyone. Goodbye.